didn't give me any attention anymore, so I divorced him and took his savings, but then he did this. Hi, Redditors. I can't believe that I'm here. I have been using this account for quite some time now, and I didn't know that I would one day come here to ask for advice from you all, or should I say share my ordeal. Well, the most important and heartbreaking thing is that I'm here. I really have a lot to say, and I thought here would be a perfect place to let all that's been bordering on me. But before I go on, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Tessie. I am a 28-year-old fashion designer. I have a partner whose name is Paul. Well, Paul is my husband, and we have been married for 6 years. Throughout our marriage, we had no kids. That makes it a lot easier for Paul and I during this time. We won't worry about child custody or any of that. I really want to have kids, but not yet. My husband and I had that discussion before we got married, and he was fine with it. I really wanted to enjoy my 20s before I started thinking about bringing a child to this world. I don't want a situation whereby people would call me an irresponsible mother to my kids because of lack of attention. I'm really a busy type. I spend most of my time at work and having fun with my friends. At this age, I had made up my mind to make the best of my 20s before having kids. I guess I might have done that out of moderation and forgot that I was married for a second. I let that mindset get the best of me and started cheating on my husband. I'm not here to lament on what has already happened. I won't say how I wish I didn't do or any of those things. I own up to what I did, and it's not like I'm proud of it anyway. No one is proud to cheat on their partners, most especially if the partner strikes with a very cold revenge. I underestimated my husband for a second, and I didn't know that he would strike me back the way he did. Paul, for a fact, is an unproblematic man. All the years I have known Paul, he's been very humble and gentle. One would think that he's timid merely looking at him from a distance, but he's not. Paul should be the most calculative person I had ever known. You would not know when he would take his next move. I'm such a fool to not have seen it coming. After 6 years of marriage, Paul and I would be going our separate ways. The relationship was lovely from the beginning, and I appreciate every time we had spent together. Guys, you might have noticed by now that my tone sounds nonchalant. At this point, I really don't like what had happened between my husband and I. I honestly didn't know what happened along the way, but one thing I know for a fact was that Paul and I fell out. At least from my own end, I tried to know what it was. One of the things we lacked in our marriage was communication. For starters, it was great from the get-go, but it died down just like that. I didn't regret meeting Paul or getting married to him. In fact, it was lovely the first day we met. Nothing much really happened though. We met just like how other couples met each other, fell in love, and we took things to the next level. It was really great walking down the aisle and saying yes to someone you thought you guys would be together till the wheels fall off. That was what I thought, but unfortunately, that didn't happen. Paul and I both played a path in this. I would say Paul shares 70% of the blame because he never gave me the attention I needed. Yes, he provided everything I needed, took care of the household bills and all, but I guess that wasn't enough. I wanted more than all of that. I know you all would say maybe when he laid his life for me that I would be satisfied, right? Well, no, that was not what I wanted. I craved his attention and I wanted him to notice every little detail about me. I love it when someone notices every little thing about me and gives it importance. I wouldn't mind being with such a person even though we weren't married. That was what I failed to do and I found it elsewhere. I'm not trying to justify what I did. As a matter of fact, cheating is bad. I would be the biggest liar on earth if I say my affair was intentional. Cheating is cheating whether it was intentional or not. My affair was intentional and I'm not scared to say that. When I'm wrong, I admit that I am, even though I would get scolded for it. That's why I have come here, to pour out what's on my mind. and ask for you guys' advice on how to solve it. I'm sorry to say, but I don't think I love my husband anymore. I fell out of love with him a long time ago. Before I started cheating on Paul, we lived like strangers at home, even though we were a couple. I don't know if that's how normal couples live with each other at home. So, guys, I want to ask those of you that are living with your partner if you guys do live like strangers at home. Because at this point, I don't get why my friends would tell me that wasn't enough reason to cheat on my husband. I'm grateful for the type of friends I have, though. They aren't the type that would encourage you to do bad things. They knew about my frustration and kept telling me to talk it out with Paul, even though it yielded no result. They kept trying, but I ended up doing what was on my mind anyway. I won't lie, guys, I'm not really happy with the way things turned out. So, guys, like I said earlier, Paul and I started off really well. We both were in love with each other during the first few months of dating and even the first few years of our marriage. I thought that Paul would be the last guy I would be with, considering the fact that I had been into a lot of relationships that didn't end well. I thought that I was the problem because most of the men I had been with ended up cheating on me or we broke up on mutual terms. Meeting Paul and getting married to him at that time made me believe that I wasn't the problem, just that some things aren't meant to be. And again, I didn't use Paul to heal from any heartbreak. I got into a relationship with Paul with a very clear head. I wasn't going through any heartbreak or emotional distress at the time we first met. So yeah, the love was genuine from the onset. As crazy it might sound, Paul and I were in love to the extent that we were in haste to tie the knot together. Guys, honestly, I didn't know that Paul and I would one day come to the point where we would no longer feel the same way we felt for each other the first day we met. Not to exaggerate things, but our friends and relatives admired us at the time because of the way we loved each other. Paul and I had the beautiful wedding one would ever dream of. It was simple, but yet expensive. But unfortunately, all of that didn't even last a decade. Here we are divorced and filing a lawsuit against each other. Well, Paul did. And that was because I took all of his savings. He got mad at me and sued me for theft. It's crazy knowing that Paul would do such a thing to me. It wasn't like I stole his money like he claimed. The money in question was for the both of us. Paul and I opened a joint account where we could be saving for any emergency and also for our kids. When we start having kids, that was the plan when we first got married. But since that wasn't going to happen any longer, I withdrew all of the money in the account. Although Paul had the most money in the account, even though he was still the one paying the bills and even taking care of my bills too. I was too mad at Paul. That was why I withdrew everything. I stopped putting money in the joint account since our 3rd-year anniversary. I didn't see the need in saving with someone I fell out of love with. All the money I had them saved up in a different account. Even though Paul and I's relationship was not as it used to be, he still took care of me and did everything a responsible husband would have done. I had no reason to complain about anything or worry about how things would be done at the house. My husband even went to the extent of employing a housekeeper to relieve me of the house chores and errands. I didn't have to do much at home just to make sure things were put in order. My housekeeper made everything easier for me and didn't give me any tough time. I only concentrate on my job and spending time with my friends if I ever feel bored. Sometimes we go clubbing or mini vacation, which is mostly sponsored by my husband. I got used to all of that, and it became a boring routine for me. At that time, I needed more. Even though I was spending time with my friends, I wasn't getting enough. My husband is a very busy type. He doesn't spend much time at home, from one business trip to another. Sometimes he has a hectic schedule that takes much of his time. One thing that I appreciate about Paul is that he never misses out on any important occasions. Even if his schedule were tight, he would find a way to be around for the event. Paul never missed out on any of my birthdays or our anniversaries. The only problem I had with him was That whenever he was around, it felt like he wasn't present. I don't know if that makes sense, but that was it. Paul had a problem with doing a public display of affection. I'm the type that likes my partner and I to display our physical affection with each other in public. But Paul was the opposite of that. He would always tell me that he loves me and doesn't see the need to show it out to the public. He would also say that kissing each other or holding hands in public doesn't matter. What matters was how he loved him and was always there for me. At the time, all that I was trying to tell Paul and what he failed to understand was that all of those things were what mattered to me then. I wanted to spice things up between us. I also wanted to take our relationship to the next level. It was boring at that time. I didn't know how else to express myself to Paul. I tried talking to him about it, but it didn't work out. I really tried everything, even going to the extent of having a conversation with Paul one evening. I told him that I wanted us to start going out together like we used when we first met, like going to clubs and hanging out with friends. I also told Paul how his job was taking much of his time, more than how it used to. My husband started off by apologizing for not spending time with me like he used to and pleaded with me to bear with him because that was the only way he could fend for the both of us. I wasn't pleased with what Paul said at that moment, even if he was working so hard to provide for us. A little time to hang out with me wouldn't be a bad idea, right? But no, Paul didn't understand where I was coming from. Yeah, he gave me lots of money and all of that, but that wasn't enough for me. A little attention would have been great. So, guys, after much persuasion, my husband agreed to spend time with me, but it was better if he hadn't, guys. The few times my husband agreed to hang out with me and my friends, it was boring. It felt like he wasn't even present at all. The times we hung out together were also the same. It made no difference that he was around. Or should we talk about when it used to be only Paul and I at home and it didn't feel like he was present? Guys, I could go on and on about this. At that time, I felt really frustrated about everything. Even when we were having an important conversation, Paul would not even pay attention to whatever I was saying. It's either he was busy with his phone or a call would disrupt the conversation. Coming back to continue the conversation was always difficult. I wasn't happy about it. I had no peace of mind, even though I had everything I needed. What's the point of staying in a place with your partner if you guys aren't physically attached to each other? The first few months of our marriage, down to our 3rd-year anniversary, was great. Paul and I would lay on the bed and talk about how our day went before we rested for the night. Sometimes we even joke about silly things that made the day funny. But as time went on, all of that became a history. When Paul came back home, he usually complained of being stressed out and tired to have any conservation. Sometimes he would fall asleep before I even joined him in bed. It came to a point we even got intimate with each other because of his busy schedule and constant complaint of being tired. I got so frustrated I wouldn't lie to guys. I didn't know that would cause an issue between Paul and I. We started off well and didn't know what went wrong. At that time, I even suspected Paul to be having an affair with someone else because I didn't understand how my husband and I would be under the same roof for months and he wouldn't make a move to touch me. And when I tried, he would come up with the same excuse as usual that he was tired and had a busy day. Guys, it doesn't even make any sense to me. I also do have busy days and work late hours, but I also find time to take care of things at home, even though I had a housekeeper. I know you all would say mine wasn't tedious like his, but come on, guys. Making out time for us to spend together as couples wouldn't be a bad idea. Not only showing up, but also being present is very important too. You can't just decide to spend time with someone and be absent-minded. It would be better if you don't show up at all. So guys, Paul's new behavior went on for some months and I couldn't tolerate it any longer. My happiness was incomplete, and the only thing missing was my husband's attention. I wanted him to continue the way we started from the beginning, but that didn't work out. Just one day, I thought about getting the attention I was craving from Paul outside. I was getting frustrated inside and couldn't hold it any longer. My friends talked me out of the idea, but I didn't listen to any of their advice. All I wanted at that point was to make myself happy if Paul couldn't give me what I wanted. I was anxious about it at first because I was scared about getting caught by my husband. I didn't want to be in a situation where my husband would find out and be mad at me. Also, I knew that my friends always took Paul's side anytime I ventured out. I wasn't happy about him, and so I didn't tell them what I had in mind. I came to the conclusion of cheating on Paul with any random guy I see, be it at a club or any place. That was crazy, right? Yeah, I know. That was the only thing that was on my mind at that moment. So, guys, this crazy idea was on my mind for a long time, but didn't know how to go about it. I wasn't bold enough to take that step. I knew that was a big decision for me at that time because I was about cheating on someone I had been married to for 3 years. Cheating on that kind of man was hard for me. But then again, I thought about my happiness and went for it after all. Yes, I know I put myself first, and that's what matters to me. Even though what I did was wrong, I still don't regret it after all. So, guys, I met Thompson, my affair partner, on social media. Thompson kept messaging me online, but took me time to reply to him. Just one fateful day, I decided to scroll through all my unread messages and found Thompson's message. I discovered that he had messaged me thrice, and so I decided to say hi. A few minutes later, Thompson replied back. I was happy he did because I felt somehow ignoring that type of person after scrolling through his page and discovered that he was really handsome and good looking from all of the pictures on his page. Thompson and I got talking and we became friends. After a few weeks of chatting online, we decided to meet each other for the first time. I was very excited to see Thompson. I loved the fact that he was very handsome and I just couldn't wait to meet him. Of course, I didn't tell my friends about the new guy I was chatting with online. No one knew about it except me. The day Thompson and I were to meet was the day my friends planned to hang out together. I didn't think twice about standing them up for my date. I came up with the excuse of having a job to do with a client of mine who was doing a photo shoot. Of course, they would need clothes, right? So yeah, that was my excuse, and they believed it. My husband was in town at that time. I also told him the same thing, and he didn't suspect anything. So guys, Thompson and I met and was so happy to have met someone like him. He was not only good looking in pictures, but in reality as well. That night, we had a little chat about ourselves, and I told him that I wasn't single at that time. Thompson was a bit surprised though, but he cared less anyway because he had feelings for me. There was this weird chemistry we had the moment we saw each other. I loved it anyway. I won't lie about that. Thompson at that time just got out of a long distance relationship. Technically, he was single and searching for someone he could mingle with and start a relationship. I was honest about my marital status, so he wouldn't be surprised when he later finds out. I was glad he had no issues with it. We started the relationship and decided that we would have fun and keep each other company. Thompson and I also decided that there would be no feelings attached also. But a few months into the relationship, things got heated up between Thompson and I. We decided to take our relationship to the next level. I was happy being with Thompson more than Paul because I got all the attention I was begging Paul for. I know you all might think that Thompson had no job, and that was why. But unfortunately, he had. Thompson was self-employed. He was a graphic designer at the time we both met, even though the nature of the job he did wasn't tedious, as my husband, like you all would say. Thompson was intentional about me, unlike Paul. Honestly, my affair with Thompson is something I won't say I regret doing. We both had a discussion that we were going to have fun, but no feelings attached. But then we discovered that we were in love with each other, and so we came to a conclusion to be together. Thompson was ready to do anything for us to be together, even if it meant that I broke up with my husband. And so Thompson came up with the idea that I should divorce Paul so that we would be together in public and won't be scared or worried about anything. At that time, Thompson and I were 2 years together, and it was lovely. I thought about the idea for days. To be sincere, guys, I was restless. I didn't know why, but I was. It wasn't like I had feelings for my husband at that time, but a part in me didn't want to do that. It took me days before I finally accepted. I can say that I wasn't pressured by Thompson or anyone to do it. I weighed my options, and I knew that I was better off with Thompson because of how he treated me. My decision at that time was based on the amount of care and attention I received from the two men I was with. Like you all know, I chose my affair partner at the end of the day. So guys, Thompson and I started processing the divorce papers that I would sign and give it to my husband to sign also. It was done within a few weeks. Before the papers were ready, I didn't feel uneasy any longer. In fact, I was happy to divorce Paul. When the divorce papers finally arrived, I took it to Paul's place and told him that I was tired living with someone that can't even notice me or give me the attention I wanted. Paul was confused at first because he didn't understand what I was saying, not until I told him that I was tired of the marriage and didn't want to continue living in a place I wasn't loved. I also told Paul that I had found someone else and was happy to be with him. Immediately, I went inside and packed my stuff. After I was done, I brought out the divorce papers and signed them, then handed it over to Paul. Paul couldn't believe what was happening. It felt like a prank to him at that moment. He didn't say a word to me and watched me leave the house that day. Before I left, I dropped the divorce papers on the table for Paul to sign. I was surprised that my husband didn't say a word to me when I was leaving the house. I was happy that Paul made it simple for me, though. I didn't want to be in a situation where Paul would try and stop me. Well, even if he had, that wouldn't have changed my mind at that moment. On my way to Thompson's house, I couldn't stop thinking about Paul's reaction to the divorce. Guys, I won't lie. I was very shocked at Paul's reaction. That even made me believe that my husband might be having an affair. When I got to Thompson's house, he was happy to know that we would be living together. I was also excited and happy that I didn't go through any drama before I left Paul. A few days after I had left the house, that was when I decided to tell my friends about my decision. They were surprised and shocked when I told them at one of our regular hangouts. They didn't expect it though, for some weird reason. My friends never liked Thompson. They kept cool with him because I was friends with them. I tried making my friends to get to know Thompson, but it didn't work. And because of that, I spent time with them. Not because I hated them or anything, but because Thompson and I spent time together and went to places with each other. So if I was going to be with my friends, Thompson would also be there too. Same goes for Thompson also. So guys, that was why I couldn't spend time like I used to since my friends weren't comfortable having Thompson around. I also broke the news about my divorce to my family. They didn't even take it lightly with me. The pressure from them was another thing, and I wouldn't want to talk about it because I would feel some type of way. I have made my decision and it's final, so yeah. I have moved out of the house, currently living with my affair partner. Ever since I got here, Thompson and I had been living off Paul's money from the joint account we shared. I used that to compensate myself for all the emotional distress I went through. 1 month after I moved out, my husband took the divorce case to court. In the divorce papers, I stated that I wanted 60% in sharing the property. That didn't sit well with Paul, and so he took the case to court. A lot went down during this process, but I will try my best to not bore you all with it. In less than a few months, Paul and I showed up in court for the divorce proceedings. I wasn't scared about anything because I hired one of the best lawyers, and so I couldn't worry about anything. During the divorce, I was asked by the judge why I had demanded a 60% share in the property allocation and other monetary funds. I told the judge that I had no substantial job and would need money to take care of my bills, since my husband and I would be getting a divorce. My husband knew that was a lie and challenged me. His lawyer told the court that was a lie and that I was self-employed. While the divorce case was ongoing, Paul went as far as suing me for theft. I didn't even see that coming in the first place. Paul claimed that the money in the joint account was mostly his and that I had no reasonable amount in the account, guys. I was dealing with two things at the same time and didn't know how to go about it. During the divorce process, my husband brought out my store documents to prove to the court that I was self-employed, and even brought out my payment slip, which was used to pay my workers monthly. His lawyer argued that someone that could pay 7 people's salaries is very much well-to-do. That was not all, guys. Paul also brought a bank statement on the withdrawal I made without his consent. I was really ashamed of myself when I saw my husband with all the evidence he provided that day. I wasn't prepared as much as Paul was. All the money I withdrew from the joint account was shown to the court, and I was guilty of everything. Guys, Paul suing me for theft and also taking the divorce case to court because he didn't agree to the terms of dissolving our marriage made me mad. I was happy living with Thompson, but I wasn't happy about the lawsuit. I don't know why, but I don't feel any remorse about my affair because my husband never gave me the attention I wanted. I was happy I found it with someone else, and he treated me well. So, the court case really took a while before it came to an end. The process wasn't funny to me at all. From the beginning, I just knew that the case won't go in my favor. I had to come up with something to convince the judge, but it didn't work out. Like said earlier, I stopped putting money into the joint account Paul and I shared. I stopped putting money in it since our 3rd anniversary. What I did was to open another account for myself where I saved all the money I made in a month. My husband had no idea about this. Well, that was what I thought, but didn't know how my husband was able to know about the secret account I opened. All the money I saved up in the secret account was for myself and Thompson. We planned on starting up a new life together, and that was why I started saving up for it. Thompson, on the other hand, did the same. How my husband was able to discover that same account to use it to his advantage was what caught me off guard. I never saw that coming. My husband told the court about my secret account and stated that I had tried to hide my assets from the court in order to take all his money. The account was investigated, and it was discovered that I had money saved up in it. Also, Paul proved to the court that he had saved the most money in the account and told the judge that I stopped putting money in the account since our 3rd year anniversary. A bank statement was provided to prove what Paul mentioned, and all evidence pointed out that I was guilty. I really did not know what to say at that moment. I didn't even know what to use against my husband in court to defend myself. As I saw that I was losing in court, I started having a regret about everything that happened. I knew at that point that I would have to pay up the money I had taken from Paul. I told Thompson about the new development and what we were going to return all the money we had used from the joint account. Paul also requested for me to return the money I had withdrawn without his knowledge from the joint account during the divorce. There was honestly a lot going on in my life, to be honest. When Thompson noticed that the case wasn't in our favor, he started drifting gradually away from me. I didn't think too much about it and thought maybe he was a little bit overwhelmed with the case, but that thought vanished after his behavior became worse. I tried talking to him about it, but he wasn't interested in having any conversation with me. We argued most times wherever I brought the idea of paying Paul back with all the money we had used from the joint account. I was too stressed at the time to banter any words with Thompson. So guys, During the last days of the divorce case, I was asked to refund all the money I had spent from the joint account during the period of our divorce. The divorce was also finalized a few days later after months in the process, and I didn't get anything out of it. I also didn't get the amount I requested in court because I lied about not being able to fend for myself. My husband and I signed the divorce papers and ceased to be husband and wife from that day. The divorce took a toll on me, and I lost weight during that period because I was restless. I had lots of sleepless nights and couldn't eat properly because I was tense. I won't lie, guys, Thompson wasn't even supportive at all. He stood by me from the get-go, but he stopped when he noticed that the case was turning against me. I didn't talk much about it because I didn't want to bring up any issue. My life just took a drastic turn all of a sudden, and I've been struggling. Update. Hey Redditters, here's an update on my last post. It's been a year and a few months already, and a lot has happened that I can't wait to share with you guys. I have had different ups and downs, but I'm still grateful for everything. Though we learn every day just that mine came in a different dimension. The last time I was here, I talked about Paul and I going our separate ways, right? Yeah, that happened. In fact, guys, paying the money I took from Paul hadn't been easy on my side since the past few months. I haven't made any sales at my store. Business has not been moving so well. To make matters worse, Paul hadn't even been patient with me. He kept threatening me to pay up the money the court asked me to pay and also return every penny I took from him. Guys, I don't know where to start. It's been a year already, but it just feels like it was yesterday. The useless guy that I cheated on my husband with had left me. Yes, Thompson actually left me. When Thompson knew that I had money, he made a fake proposal to me so he could have access to my life and money freely without me being suspicious. That was why he brought the idea of me divorcing my husband just so we could share his properties together. Well, it wasn't like he pressured me into doing it though. So guys, I'm not trying to put the blame on Thompson. I'm just heartbroken with how he treated me. I moved out of his house when I couldn't bear it any longer. Thompson was worse than my ex-husband. He treated me like a piece of trash when I needed him the most. When Thompson knew that I was being tense because I was looking for a way to pay Paul his money, he sent me out of his house. He told me that he didn't want to be dealing with my divorce case after seeing all the things that happened in court. Thompson also didn't want to pay any of the money he spent for me. I was so stupid to have fallen for someone like Thompson. He only cared about himself and didn't care about anyone. I'm praying hard for things to bounce back in my store so I would be able to pick up my life. I'm honestly tired of regretting my decisions almost every day. My ex-husband threatened to destroy my store if I'm not able to pay up within the specified time. It even got to the extent of selling most of my expensive designs just so I could meet up the payment, but it's not working because I'm made to fend for myself. I have sold more than half of the clothes I had in my store. I really don't know how to go about this. If I had known, I wouldn't have even cheated on my ex-husband in the first place. This has taught me a huge lesson that I would never forget. I don't know what got into me or how my life suddenly turned hard and filled with regret, but I just know I'm struggling to get it all together.